Cody Ann Jackson, a 20-year-old woman from Stoke-on-Trent, UK, sounded like she was in excruciating pain when she called emergency services.
Are you the patient?
My daughter, she's not breathing.
She's not breathing?
No.
She's not breathing at all?
No.
What's the address of the emergency, please? And how old is your daughter?
She's 2.
2 years old?
Yeah.
She had found her lifeless baby inside her home, and what kind of mother would she be if she didn't react with such agony? However, what was happening with Cody Ann was far from that. She was a heartless murderer who had taken her own daughter's life for a despicable reason. This is the tragic story of 2-year-old Macy Hogan and the full account of Cody Ann Jackson's actions. The story takes place in Stoke-on-Trent, a town in Staffordshire, central UK, with a population of 250,000 people. The town is known for its historic pottery industry and picturesque canoe trails, but it is also among the 5 most hated towns in England, with locals frequently complaining about the area's unsanctioned industrial estates and constant traffic congestion. In 2016, 2-year-old Macy Hogan lived in Stoke-on-Trent with her parents, Cody Ann Jackson and Paul Hogan. The couple had met 3 years ago at a friend's house party when Cody Ann was still in school, with Paul being 3 years her senior. Cody Ann gave birth to Macy at the age of 17, and although they were young and had limited financial resources, they were delighted to be parents. Macy's extended family was also eager to assist in any way they could, and Macy was a cheerful and outgoing child who adored both people and animals. Let's just say she was a peaceful little girl. She was very healthy, had a whole life in front of her, and had a lot of support from all wider parts of the family. Paul fondly recalls some of the quirky and unique aspects of his daughter's personality. These are the precious moments that parents cherish in their relationship with their young children. Unfortunately, Paul's life would soon unravel terribly, and Macy's existence would be tragically truncated. As time passed, Paul and Cody Ann's relationship became increasingly tense. It is unclear whether Macy's presence added more stress to their relationship, or if their relationship was already bound to fail. However, by the autumn of 2016, Paul had decided to leave his girlfriend following a week-long argument. On either October 1st or 2nd, he packed his belongings and left the house. Cody Ann was devastated, as she saw this as the end of her life. On the afternoon of October 10th, the emergency services in Staffordshire received a harrowing call. Cody Ann told the emergency service on the phone that her 2-year-old daughter, Macy, was not breathing at all. While the dispatcher waited for the paramedics to arrive at the scene, she instructed Cody Ann on what to do to help little Macy. She was told to be calm and that help was coming her way. The dispatcher may have assumed that the anguished cries on the other end of the line were coming from a mother who had just discovered her infant daughter deceased between 2 pillows on her bed. However, Cody Ann's wails were because she had sustained stab wounds on her chest, neck, and arms. Since Macy was not breathing, the dispatcher was not informed of this, and Cody Ann's condition was not given priority. During the call, Cody Ann appeared uncooperative, but the dispatcher presumed this was due to her being in a panicked state. Cody Ann had just stated that she had woken up to her worst nightmare. It did sound a little strange that Cody Ann had awoken to find herself stabbed. Typically, anyone attacked with a knife would wake up immediately. Nevertheless, standard procedure was followed in this case. The dispatcher dispatched the police to both Cody Ann's residence and Paul's workplace. That afternoon, Paul was arrested on suspicion of murder. Imagine being told that your 2-year-old daughter was killed and being arrested for the crime simultaneously. Paul had come to terms with the fact that Macy had been murdered, but he couldn't learn the details of how she was killed or who was responsible because the police suspected him of the crime. After all, his former girlfriend had informed the authorities that she had awoken stabbed next to her daughter. However, the truth would soon emerge, and it would be a very dark one. Upon arrival at Cody Ann's residence, the police encountered a locked door, which they attempted to force open, to no avail. The paramedics ultimately entered the apartment using an oxygen cylinder, only to discover Macy's body blocking the entryway. Suspicion arose regarding Cody Ann's behavior, as she was found attempting CPR on Macy in the doorway and had not responded to the police presence earlier. An additional grisly discovery was made during the investigation. Macy had been dead for a considerable amount of time, with visible signs of hemorrhaging to her face, eyes, and eyelids. The autopsy confirmed that she had been healthy up until her death, which had occurred several hours before Cody Ann's call to emergency services. The cause of death was ascribed to severe brain damage and hemorrhaging, with evidence of gagging using a pillow, blanket, or bath gown found. The detectives were gradually revealing the somber reality surrounding Macy's premature passing, and it became increasingly evident that Paul was not involved. While interviewing Paul and Macy's relatives, the detectives discovered that Cody Ann was deeply upset over her recent breakup with Paul. The paramedics had also observed self-inflicted injuries on Cody Ann during their visit to her home. Furthermore, a sequence of disturbing evidence surfaced within Cody Ann's residence, including a troubling note that she had written to her uncle. In the note, she wrote, "I sit here thinking about killing my own daughter and then killing myself. I do not want to leave her behind, but I can't go on earlier. There is nothing for me or Macy. Life is shit and the world is shit." Cody Ann decided to dial 999 to create the appearance that she and Macy had been targeted by her ex-partner, but she overlooked the possibility of concealing her suicide note. Despite feeling extremely distraught over Paul's departure, Cody Ann contemplated taking her own life and taking her infant daughter with her, under the misguided notion that this would be a better outcome than her daughter growing up motherless. Finally, the last piece of evidence emerged, which may have been the most emotionally devastating of all. On Saturday, October 8th, Cody Ann sent Paul a picture of Macy with the caption, "Sorry, just thought you deserved one last picture and memory of her. Savor the last ever picture. Possibly see you in court." If this had been a fictional story, it might have seemed like an excessively dramatic teen movie, but the fact that Cody Ann planned to kill Macy as a form of retaliation against her ex is truly heart-wrenching. It takes a special kind of person to take the life of their child to get back at someone else. After receiving the distressing text, Paul believed it would be best to give Cody Ann some time to cool down before reaching out to her again in a few days. He had no inkling that Cody Ann had devised a plan for their daughter and thought she would only cut off contact for a short period. He had no clue that Cody Ann would commit such a heinous act. Following Macy's murder, Cody Ann Jackson was arrested several days later, while Paul was released and now could provide testimony against her. During her interrogation and the majority of her trial, Cody Ann maintained a stoic demeanor, refusing to speak about her motive and displaying a poker face. Detective Dan Eisen, who led the whole case, commented. He said, "From the moment of her arrest, from the footage I've seen, from what I've seen in interviews in court, she's remained cold, emotionless, and showed no remorse throughout. In fact, the only time I've seen tears from Cody Ann Jackson is the point she pleaded guilty in court." It wasn't until 6 days of trial that Cody Ann finally broke her silence, as numerous testimonies were presented against her. Eventually, she broke down in tears and changed her plea to guilty. As a result, she received a life sentence in prison with a chance of parole after serving 16 years and 114 days. Judge Michael Chambers said her murder was an expression of utter self-absorption. During the trial, Paul was present in court every day, but Cody Ann avoided looking at him, acting as if he wasn't even present. She never expressed any remorse for her actions or for the way they had destroyed his life. In the aftermath of the incident, Paul spoke with the media several times, stating that his life had been completely turned upside down. He said, "I stayed in my room for a couple of months, just drinking. I didn't really leave my room." The incident left Paul unable to keep a job, and he continues to grapple with profound anxiety and grief. It's difficult to accept that one's partner or former partner could be capable of murdering their child. With no sign of Cody Ann showing remorse or offering an apology, Paul is left with only regret over not taking Macy with him that fateful day. Although Cody Ann may be released from prison before she turns 40, if she fails to express any remorse for her heinous crime, she could end up spending the remaining part of her life behind bars. Alright guys, that's all for today. What are your opinions on this case? Should Cody Ann Jackson's punishment be more severe? Will she pose a risk to society upon her release? And will Macy's father ever find closure? Please share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for future updates. Until next time.